Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Michael Wald, and I appreciate you joining me today for a concise but practical and detailed discussion of a drug called Dasatinib. And I entitled this presentation, Dasatinib, Avoiding Death? We Shall See. I'll begin with a disclaimer, basically that the information I'll be presenting today is for your educational purposes only. It's not meant as a replacement for sound medical or health advice. So let's just get right into it. So what is Dasatinib and what's its uses? So Dasatinib is popularized right now as an anti-aging drug. So just bear that in mind as I go through all of this. So Dasatinib is by definition a tyrosine kinase inhibitor, or TKI, that blocks specific proteins involved in cell signaling and growth. Cell signaling is just a term that means cells crosstalk to one another. So the primary uses of this drug in medicine currently are it's approved in treatments of chronic myeloid leukemia, or CML, and acute lymphoblastic leukemia, otherwise known as ALL, with the Philadelphia chromosome. And its use right now is considered investigational for longevity. So Dasatinib targets senescent cells, what they call zombie-like aged cells, which contribute to aging and chronic inflammation. So if you're targeting these senescent cells, that theoretically should help in longevity. It's used as part of therapy to selectively clear these senescent cells, potentially improving tissue health and overall longevity. So in order to really understand how Dasatinib works, you need to understand a little bit about what a tyrosine kinase is. So tyrosine kinases are enzymes that transfer phosphate groups to tyrosine residues on protein, a process known as phosphorylation. So that's what tyrosine kinases do. They help a process known as phosphorylation, which is the transferring of phosphate groups. And that activity involves a molecular switch, as it's known, regulating critical cellular processes like growth, division, differentiation, and what's called cell signaling. These processes are what you want to target for anti-aging effects. And dysregulated tyrosine kinase activity, often due to mutations of the genetic material, can lead to uncontrolled cell growth, which is a hallmark of most cancers. Uncontrolled cell growth by dysregulated or tyrosine kinase that's just not working right. So by targeting tyrosine kinases, which with inhibitors like Dasatinib, that has become a very popular strategy right now in longevity clinics around the world. So what are the effects of this medication, and what should you know? So Dasatinib does a few things. First of all, you need to know about its side effects. Some of the side effects, and there's a longer list than this, include fatigue, headaches, nausea, diarrhea, fluid retention, and shortness of breath. And some of the more serious side effects include myelosuppression. So that's suppression of the bone marrow, which might bring down the white blood cell count, the red blood cell count, or even the platelet count. Red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets are all made in the bone marrow. So if you suppress the bone marrow, you're going to suppress one or more of those different cell types. A pancytopenia is a term that means all three of those different cell types were affected. If it's just white blood cells, we call that a lymphopenia. And if it's red blood cells, we call that an anemia. So those serious side effects can lead to pulmonary arterial hypertension, liver toxicity, which would manifest as elevated liver enzymes, among other findings, and risk of bleeding and heart complications. And mitigating strategies to deal with these side effects, these adverse side effects, would be dose adjustments or taking breaks from the treatment with this drug, and regular monitoring, obviously, of the side effects. So also, I found that, at least from my online investigations, that many people they're not paying attention to the side effects, and they're not paying any attention to this medication's effects along with various nutrients in food. So that's what I want to introduce you to right here. So Dasatinib, if you're taking that medication or thinking about taking it, you need to be aware of grapefruits. Grapefruits inhibit something known, a liver detoxification mechanism known as CYP3A4, which, if you interfere with that, will increase the drug's metabolism. So if you're eating grapefruits, it's going to increase the metabolism of Dasatinib, and that's not what you want if you want the effects of the drug. Also, St. John's wort, an herb, induces CYP3A4, that detoxification system, reducing the efficacy of Dasatinib. Nutritional considerations, there are a number of them. We're going to talk about those in the next slide. And then the dosages are different for different medical conditions. In the field of longevity, there's a lot of experimenting going on with the medication dose. Usually they will start lower than the recommended starting dose for the approved medical conditions, but not always. So here's a list of the top 5 synergistic reactions between Dasatinib and nutrients that I could think of, and there are others. And then there are adverse drug interactions. Some of them I just reviewed with you, like St. John's wort and grapefruit. But quercetin, vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, N-acetylcysteine, otherwise known as NAC, and magnesium work synergistically with Dasatinib, and here's why and how. So quercetin, for example, acts synergistically with Dasatinib as part of the therapy to enhance the clearing of these abnormal cells. The benefit of quercetin with Dasatinib are in the areas of anti-aging, anti-inflammation, and through antioxidant effects. And then there's vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 supports immune function, bone health, which can be compromised by using Dasatinib. So the benefit or potential benefit of vitamin D3 taken along with this medication is that it may help the vitamin D3 help counteract the potential bone density loss and immune suppression so common in Dasatinib. And then omega-3 fatty acids reduce inflammation and support cardiovascular function. And the benefit of Dasatinib, along with omega-3 fatty acids, would mitigate the risk of pulmonary arterial hypertension and other cardiovascular side effects. And then there's N-acetylcysteine, not as common of a nutrient, but gaining some recognition. It's been my favorite nutrient now for over 20 years. It boosts glutathione levels, which is a key antioxidant and immune modulator, and also needed for detoxification in the liver. And the combination of Dasatinib and NAC may give us some liver protection and reduce oxidative stress, which can cause liver problems caused by Dasatinib. And then magnesium helps prevent electrolyte imbalances, specifically of magnesium. And the benefit of taking Dasatinib with magnesium has to do with the drugs, magnesium addressing potential side effects of Dasatinib, particularly fluid retention and cardiac rhythm problems, also known as dysrhythmias. So these are some of the laboratory tests that I would perform if someone wants this medication. First of all, I should make it clear that although I have a medical diploma, I'm not a licensed medical doctor. I chose not to complete medical school. It just wasn't for me. But I will review my credentials with you in just a moment. But CBC, a complete blood count, liver function test, kidney function test, electrolyte panels, an EKG, and pulmonary testing, these are all, they should be fundamental for any physician or any person considering this medication in terms of proper laboratory monitoring. And there are other laboratory tests too that might be specific for your situation. So we want to approach the longevity, particularly if it's part of a focus-driven longevity plan, and if you plan on considering Dasatinib, you want to maintain a holistic approach where you're going to look not just at taking a drug, but what nutrients interact positively with the drug, which nutrients interact negatively with the drug. Some of them I've mentioned in this presentation just now, along with various lifestyle factors, other laboratory tests, as I mentioned, sleep hygiene, and other factors. And we want to approach this from a healthcare perspective. If you just take the drug and that's it, you're really losing out on a lot of potential longevity, I should say, efforts. So we want to look at all aspects of your life, optimizing everything together at once for hyper synergistic effects. And I mentioned the various testing, some of the tests I've mentioned in here for this particular drug, and then there would be other testing for everything else about your particular biochemistry so that I can figure out the best food choices for you, best supplementation, best exercises, best way of handling any other stresses and factors that need attention in your lifestyle. Briefly, I originally was a doctor of chiropractic. I still am. And I mentioned that I earned my MD diploma. I'm a sports nutritionist. I have a board certification in nutrition. I provide acupuncture services and life coaching. I'm also a dietitian. So that's the background that I bring to the table with people interested in longevity. And I hope you enjoy this presentation on Dasatinib. To contact me, you can call me at 914-552-1442 and let me know your thoughts about this presentation and any other presentations you'd like to see me cover by emailing me at info@blooddetective.com. And there will be additional information on this topic and others on my website at www.drmichaelwald.com. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you at the next one.